Good morning, justice seekers, justice warriors. How you guys doing this morning? I am a little bit behind my normal schedule. It's just been a lot going on with family stuff. So I'm happy to be here with you. And if you would like to make a comment, if you're here with me, then I'll know that you guys can hear me without any problems. So everything I say is my opinion only and is purely for the sake of conversation and opening up a discussion. And hopefully, it's educational and maybe entertaining as well. So, that's what we do here on YouTube with our channels, right? So, this channel has been created and dedicated for Kiely Rodni, Justice for Kiely. Hey, Christine. Good morning. So happy to have finally caught it live. Yay. I'm so happy that you're here, Christine. Thank you. So as you guys know, I take a lot of notes, and you know, the last 24 hours, 48 hours has been quite a whirlwind of turbulence with Jared from AWP. So, you know, I think it's important to acknowledge that that's going on, and I think it's important to keep it separated from what's going on with Ms. Kiely Rodni's death investigation and lack thereof. So, I'm not downplaying anything about what happened there, but I just think it's a huge mistake to allow the distortion and the distraction. I really do. Um, and I think that, that's what the catfishing crew, that's what they do, right? That's like catfishing 101. There, how's that? Just trying to get it so that it's not like cutting off the top of my head. Maybe if I move it back a little bit. Sorry, I thought I had that all figured out before I started. Maybe I should just slouch a little and then it'll work. Anyway, so let's get started on this Kiely Rodni case. How is everybody doing this morning? Hey, Pixie Knickers. Good morning. Chatty chat. You guys may have noticed my voice is a little raspy. Again, I keep going to these exciting athletic events that friends are playing in and having very close games and winning. It's always more fun when your team wins, right? But it really is how you play the game. Good morning, Dilly Owens. How are you? Timing is just so incredibly odd. Christine, thank you for pointing that out. I'm going to go ahead and pin that. It's not odd. It's brilliant for the catfish crew, in my opinion. So, we've talked about the ungaslighting ourselves, and I think it was Phantasmic Ether that came up with that saying. Tell me if I'm incorrect. I don't want to give credit to the wrong person, but they kind of gifted it to me as like my slogan, right? I think that's what they were doing to say, this justice A to Z is where you can ungaslight yourself. Come ungaslight yourself over here. But you know what? We are all ungaslighting ourselves together. You guys are so incredibly crucial to this process. That's why I do live chats rather than pre-recorded, because we are crowdsourcing. And in doing that, we help each other out. We think of things and we remember things, and it just flows really nicely. Yes, true, oddly convenient. Right, exactly. So I just, cannot express enough my gratitude for you guys being here with me and helping me with ungaslighting myself and trying to speak clearly. So let's get into it. The first 48 hours of any crime scene investigation is the most crucial, right? I mean, there's been a television show called 48 Hours. That's an old classic. And then there's like a newer kind of not a documentary news show, but the first 48. That's like a drama. So, going back to this alleged party on August 5th, Friday night at Prosser Family Campground, we really don't have confirmation that that is where the 48-hour clock starts. That's where the 48-hour clock starts given the timeline that we're given, but the timeline that we're given is coming from incredibly untrustworthy sources with like zero credibility. We've got Sammy, Scammy, and Elsa. Um, and a criminal's first thought is to throw off the timeline. If they can throw the timeline off, they can just muddy the waters and, just make a huge mess, which is essentially what they're trying to do. So, um, these people have really painted themselves into a corner, and I feel like law enforcement in Truckee and Prosser County and Nevada County, I feel like they've painted themselves into a corner also, and that making a big debacle out of the situation with Jared and his history and all of that is kind of their only way out. It's really an act of desperation. And to me, it is them revealing that that's the only card they have to play, the only one. And, like I said yesterday, it's amazing to me how much is riding on Nick, roadside assistance guy's story. It's simply astounding. But again, that's because of the timeline, right? Because they're trying to say that Kylie went missing on Friday night at midnight, 12:30, so Saturday morning. And then the roadside assistance guy says he saw somebody who introduced herself as Kylie when he went to Kylie's car, and she was with a young man that looked a lot like Jagger, and they were acting uh skittish and gamey and odd and bizarre and just all of that, right? So it begs the question, who were those two people? And we know that they are on videotape, and we've got a blonde female that is either Kylie or someone who could pass for Kylie. And then we've got a young man who is either Jagger or somebody who looks a lot like Jagger. So, I mean, I think that that's as specific as I can be in my opinion right now. Um, the mass exodus, Sammy's quotes. Again, you guys know I've been going back to the beginning of the case. I'm kind of looking at that first 48 hours, even though I'm not buying the first 48 hours actually being the first 48 hours. I think it could have been before that. I think it could have been after that. But that's what we have right now in this case, is looking at kind of midnight or a few hours earlier on Friday, um, August 5th, and then the next 48 hours from that. So going to like Sunday night. That's where the most intense and relevant information is likely to be. And also, I think the first few days, once they started the supposed search, that really doesn't look like much of a search to me at all. It really looks like a staged search. Like, that banner that they hung by the RV that the granddad and the dad were staying in, right there at the campground. The banner with Kylie's two photographs and all the information. When has anybody had a banner like that for a search party ground zero? It was kind of like overkill. It didn't dawn on me until last night. I joined in Squirrels on Fires live, and I was really tired. I was really happy to be there, but I was having computer trouble of my own. I think it was simply my own internet issues. I don't think I was hacked or anything like that at all. I'm pretty sure I wasn't. But After a 2-hour live with Squirrels on Fire, when I finally got my issues with the computer worked out and was able to stay on and not keep falling off, um, she fell off her own live and got locked out. What? I mean, that's suspicious. That is sus. No volume, but here reading chat. My mod says, okay, cool. And that doesn't mean that she doesn't have volume. It just means she can't use it because of the situation that she's in. So, yeah, I am going to, I was, I was going to pin this one right here. This new one from Christine. Humans unable to keep a secret, generally speaking. Nick is the roadside assistance guy, is supposedly independent of everyone else. So why have we not heard more from his story or more from him personally? You guys may have already thought of this. Sometimes I can be extremely slow. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to be disparaging of myself. I'm just being honest. It wasn't until I just read your comment, Christine, that it dawned on me that his life is probably in danger, and even if it's not, he is probably concerned that his life is in danger, because if they can silence him forever. But again, if something were to happen to him, that's a really bad chess move for them, because it's going to look pretty obvious that they rubbed him out, right? And I mean, this is really frightening stuff. I mean, Kiely lost her life. This is really frightening stuff. It's not television, it's not make believe that we know of. I mean, it's real life. This 16-year-old was very likely rubbed out for whatever reason. I mentioned yesterday abandonment issues. I've kind of looked at this case through the abandonment issue lens from go, because of the breakup, not breakup, back and forth report from Jagger. So anytime any of us deal with a breakup, we have abandonment issues. We all have abandonment issues, but some people's are much more severe than others. And the people with the most severe abandonment issues are personality disordered people. It doesn't matter if they're narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder. But we pretty much all can agree that Sammy and Jagger are both personality disordered. They're also both at the very top of the list of who, what, where, right? Um, they are also both people that put themselves right there, saying that they were the last to have contact with Kiely that night. So, Kiely was potentially abandoning ship. She was potentially ready to spread her wings and fly, flee the nest, and move on. And it could be that pretty much everybody there was distraught over that, especially because it was earlier than they might have expected. Perhaps they didn't know she was going to be able to graduate that early, because it really was 2 years early. She would have turned 17 in September. A lot of kids don't graduate high school until they're 19. So she was technically in her sophomore year, I believe, on paper, per her school record, when she not only graduated early, but with honors, and may or may not have been accepted to Yale. So I've heard that. I've also heard some other things that I'm very curious about. I mentioned this one yesterday. Did Ms. Kiely Rodni have a court date a few days prior to her disappearance? Like maybe for a traffic ticket or something, not for anything big and bad and grisly, just a court date of sorts. Linda Bowie says, you're missing it. Morning from Tumwater, Washington. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean about that, but Let's just for positive. Oh, am I missing Squirrel Girl? Thank you. I will check out Squirrel Girl. I really appreciate her what she's doing. So yeah, and the Squirrels on Fire thing last night, that was bizarre. And then I was up later than usual because of that panel. And then Ryan Upchurch went on live to discuss the matter with the mess. And he first did a 4-minute live from inside his car that wasn't working out. And then he deleted it. And then he did like a 35-minute live. And, he was extremely emotional about it all. And that's his thing. I personally love Ryan Upchurch, and personally, I think that it's important to keep Jared's mess separate from the mess with Kiely. I mean, he wasn't around, he wasn't there, he wasn't on site. Let's see. Assistant guy was let go or left roadside assistance company straight after interview and went back to previous job, according to YouTube sleuth. Guessing Chronicles of Olivia, but not sure now. That's not a source that I look to. I'll just say that. And Linda Bowie says live 100% Kiely. Could well be. So if she was still alive on Saturday, I mean, I'm leaning more and more towards this theory that when all of her friends were being interviewed and they were saying, oh yeah, we're sure she's safe, we're sure that she's going to be found, we're sure that there's not really a problem. I'm leaning more and more towards that they knew she was alive at that point. So I'm leaning more and more towards that she could have been alive up until around August 17th, and then potentially put into the water on the 18th. So, let's look at the date of her. Well, I was going to say her memorial service. What I meant was the Country for Kiely. That was on August 13th. That was, a week into the search, a 2-week search. That was halfway point. Why in the world would they organize something that's going to actually distract from the search? I mean, that makes no sense at all. That, again, when have you ever heard of any type of event like that in the middle of a freaking search? Okay. Sammy said, everyone saw us together, but we were sharing drinks. So weird to say. It makes me think, was she even at the party? Yeah, everything Sammy says is so weird. And, I think that Sammy is very likely a severe drug user. That's just my opinion. So, she's painted herself into a corner. Kate Cuneo painted herself into a corner and then fled. Jagger kind of painted himself into a corner. All these people have left out a lot of pertinent information about what their interactions were exactly with Kiely that they claim from that night. Like Jagger said that he had been complaining to her in a text about his day. And then at 10:30, she responded with, I'm sorry you're going through that. Right? That is what he says was the very last text that he got from her. And at some point he texted her, don't do anything stupid. Right? So, that's kind of insulting. Don't do anything stupid. You guys keep saying she's a smart girl. Why would she do something stupid? And, it just makes me very suspicious of what he was complaining about his day. Was it his heart broken? Was it a flat tire? I mean, omitting all that information to me speaks volumes. So I look at missing information as information in and of itself. So that's just how I see things. Let's see. Allison Sexton says, because Sammy said everyone saw us together, we were sharing drinks. Just weird to say, was she even at the party? That's what I had just pinned, I think. Let's see, the one right after that. Wonder if Sammy's parents don't know how bad she is, yet no one better touch her. Yeah, it's just nuts, isn't it? I doubt there was a party, but we were fed that narrative. I doubt there was a party too. I think that there was a gathering. I think that there was a get together, but I think that that was probably just every night in Truckee at the sanctuary, right? With their drinking and their drugging and their gambling and their fight club stuff. So, what I see is just panic. I see sheer panic with the catfish crew. And I just hope that AWP can keep their rudder even on course and steady. And, you know, people might need to jump ship like Jared. They might need to sever ties with him. And, those are decisions that those people will make on their own. And I know that Doug has come out publicly and spoken on a couple of the channels. I did look at a lot of these shows this morning. That was one reason why I was a little bit late. So, um, you know, the question really is who knew what when. That's pretty much what it always boils down to when you're dealing with sexual harassment and sexual assault. Um, who knew what when? Okay. Um, Are those the only phone records that we have? Like, can't they pull the text history without her phone being found? I would love to know if they were even talking leading up to the party. Right. And yeah, I mean, they definitely have that, but are they covering it up? Probably, or it would have been put out there. Again, all the information that was not shared when she was a missing person, everything being top secret, like where she allegedly bought the 2 gallons of gas. You wanna make that public because you want to use that point as a reference point in looking for her. It makes no sense. It makes absolutely 0 sense. Pretty much everything in this case makes 0 sense, I mean, in my humble opinion. Um, why were there no cadaver dogs? Or were there cadaver dogs and I missed it? Um, you're one I haven't unsubbed from. That's nice. Thank you for not jumping on the traitor train. I support Jared 100%. It'll come out just who is behind this attack. Plus, it's all a distraction. You know that. Yeah, and that whole like dividing and conquering. Again, the catfish crew is being kind of brilliant. I hate to give them any credit at all, but that is how you win a war. You divide and conquer. And this is, in my opinion, a psyops war. So, in this crisis that we're dealing with in Truckee with their missing teenager and with any crisis, I had mentioned this yesterday how it is a dangerous opportunity. Every crisis has 3 doors, as I like to look at it metaphorically. One door is the challenge. Obvious, it's usually pretty obvious what the challenge is, right? The second door is the opportunity, and that's where you can use your intelligence and your creativity to try to figure out how to turn it into something potentially positive. And then if you can turn it into something potentially positive, or even if you can't, you'll almost always find a gift in that crisis. Almost always, even something really, really tragic and sad. Um, so I just, I'm my style, my way of thinking, my way of speaking is to always look at the glass as half full, right? It's like the old, is the glass half full? Is the glass half empty? Sometimes I like to say it's just a vessel containing some liquid. Like it's really important to not judge and just to take in the information. Like, that's the hard evidence. It's just a vessel with some liquid. We can't assume that it was once full and that it's half full. We can't assume that it was once empty and now it's half empty. I mean, those are assumptions. But that's kind of like the optimist and the pessimist, and then maybe what is more in between, the realist. Um, and I'm not saying that I'm accurate in my perceptions. I definitely have my own slanted perceptions, my rose colored glasses, as some people might say, that metaphor. I feel like I do not have rose colored glasses, but people who are extremely pessimistic, I think would definitely see me as an optimist. And that's fine. I don't mind being labeled an optimist. Even though I'd rather be labeled a realist, kind of the Boy Scout slogan is my slogan: always prepare for the worst, hope for the best. It's kind of how I try to live. Um, Linda Bowie, is there even water cadaver dogs, but they didn't get taken to Prosser? Right. Cadaver dogs can smell in water, absolutely. But again, that dog carcass being buried out there might have been to throw off any cadaver dogs that might have been around. I was abused as a baby. Can't even think. I can't go there. I'm just blocking. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kay Taylor. Yeah, and that is what's so upsetting to me about this whole thing with Jared's family and the abuse that those people have been a part of. Is It's triggering for so many people, and for the people involved that are filing the paperwork against Jared, for that to be getting so much airtime in social media is not a safe idea for those people that have been victimized, even if they want to be public. They can't foresee how that is going to affect them down the road. And it's just too much exposure, in my opinion. You need to be really careful with that stuff. And again, it's an active case. So, you want to keep a low profile until it's a wrap, right? A penny for my thoughts. Those banners are for show and distraction. I agree 100%, Caleb. Let me pin that. Yeah. Oh, and the writing on the vehicles. There was if you guys watch Squirrels on Fires live from last night, it was about 2 hours long, and it was kind of slow, I'll say, but to me it was very perfect because I was kind of tired. I was in bed. Um, but it was also very interesting. Like, you just never know what you're going to find when you're sleuthing and cyber sleuthing. So for the most part, she was just watching a videotape of people hanging out at that ground zero and organizing before Sammy spoke and did her little spinny thing. I always say that's my favorite part, but it's actually like my least favorite part. Um, so there was a black pickup truck, a big jacked up black pickup truck that had a ton of white writing all over the windows. Probably the same instrument was used to write on those windows that was used to write on the legs of Mags and Sammy. Probably, if not the exact same instrument, same type, right? So that white chalky stuff that people use to write on windows, the windows were just packed with information about Kiely, like too much information about Kiely. I would recommend going to Squirrels on Fire's video just to look at that freaking pickup truck. It's probably right around halfway through. But it is extremely suspicious. Like, overkill, absolute overkill. Like the back window, the side window, so much writing, like a paragraph. I'm a little bit exaggerating, but a couple of sentences basically on each of those passenger side windows and the back. And I couldn't see the driver's side, but looking at that, I was just like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. Like, whose truck is that? My guess is that it's somebody who is guilty, like maybe a Nate or something like that. And maybe somebody knows whose truck it is. It wouldn't surprise me if Squirrels on Fire actually has figured that out. I don't think she knew last night when we were looking at it. Oh, don't forget to hit your light thumbs up. I'm going to pin that because I always forget to ask you guys or to remind you that if you would like to hit the thumbs up button, I appreciate it. It does a lot for the channel to like, subscribe, and share. And for anybody who wants to unsubscribe for any reason, that's your prerogative. I mean, I think that these cases really divide up the true crime community. Um, like Kylie's case can divide it up, and then parts of Kylie's case can divide it up. Are you in the accident camp or the foul play camp? And somebody came up with one like a week ago. I'm in the people can't do their jobs camp. And I just thought that was the best one that I'd heard of. And, I think in our chat, we've said that, we're all in Justice for Kylie camp, right? So, oh, you're so nice, Heavenly Clouds. And I love your name there. And let's see, Hoping for Answers says, I always get the first notification that you're going to be on, then don't get the notification that you are on. So I'm always late. Oh, that's goofy. That's really odd. um, so yeah, let me look through my notes because I was doing a lot with my notes. That was one of the reasons why it took me a while to get on. um I just want to say that, like, with Nick, the roadside assistance guy, and with everybody and everything, it's always good, in my opinion, to have a healthy skepticism, right? I mean, you don't just want to buy everything everybody feeds you at face value. And um it's funny when you can't read your own writing, right? So I want to say about all this noise over the weekend with this other stuff that's separate with AWP, just to not throw the baby out with the bathwater. People who are really interested in looking at that and investing time and energy into that. And as I've mentioned, I'm not interested in investing my time and energy into it. It just, to me, feels like it's taking my attention away from Kiely Rodni. And it's my opinion that that's what the design of it was. That, I mean, look at Jagger. He loves this, right? And we know the whole Catfish crew is loving it. And as Phantasmic Ether stated in the chat yesterday, that this was probably why Megan had been coming out full swing all over YouTube for the last week, like she has been, because we hadn't heard from her in a long time. She's been doing all these long lives on her own channel and going into panels and getting beat up by meanies like me. I'm just kidding. I don't think I was that mean to her in that 10-hour live with Squirrels on Fire. I don't feel like I was that mean. I feel like I was being very direct and very honest. And, she was tired. She was beat. And she just decided that she burst out in tears, and I thought she was laughing. And then she basically just jumped off the panel without saying goodbye. And that is fine. Everybody has the freedom to do what they feel like they need to do for themselves. Um, I wondered, being that it was 2 in the morning and I was kind of loopy, I wondered if I had been out of line. I've told you guys I watched it a few times the next day, and I've watched it a few times since then. And I don't feel like I was out of line. So I'm, glad that I feel like I can stand by that emotional drama. And yet, I don't like the emotional drama. I wanted to try to be as diplomatic as I could. And, she was saying some crazy stuff, I thought. Um, and and dangerous stuff. Dangerous stuff. To act like Sammy is innocent to me is extremely dangerous. I've been very clear, and I want to be even more clear right now, that I am concerned about anybody who's in contact with her. I'm concerned that she is like a Joran Vandersloot, and that is my opinion, and I'm allowed to have that opinion. That's not any kind of slander. That is what I see when I look at that person and what I know about that person. It's pretty alarming that she's so flagrant with what she's doing. And all of these kids involved with Kiely that call themselves her friends, it's extremely alarming how they act and how they don't express true, what I would perceive as true emotion and concern about this whole effing thing. It's horrible. A person is deceased. And, Dr. Dre, I'm saying it wrong, Dr. Latina, Amy Salerno, said straight up she has not been able to determine for herself that it was a drowning. She's being very diplomatic, very respectful of the person who did the autopsy. She has stated quite clearly that she does not see the evidence of a drowning. But there was somebody who stated that they thought that Kylie's death might be a strangulation type of asphyxiation. Strangulation type of asphyxiation. So in that autopsy, there was no trauma to the neck that was mentioned. In fact, I just discussed that in the live last night. I'm pretty sure my recollection and other people's recollection is that the neck was stated to be basically fine, right? But how can we trust any of this? I mean, Sammy has stated that Kiely was basically fine in that live that I was on with Squirrels on Fire and Megan, um, on that, was it Friday night? Anyway, it's just hard to track it all, right? That was a 10-hour live, and Megan was saying that she was texting with Sammy during their live. And so the people in the panel were asking her to ask Sammy questions in her texting, and then she was sharing the responses. It was, to me, completely insane. And the responses were completely insane. And I was just like, oh man, like stop the insanity. To get back to Susan Powers, remember that awesome wild woman in the 90s? Stop the insanity. It's just freaking crazy. I am shook after last night. I was there and watching when Shanda lost her headset function. Yeah, thanks for saying that, Claudia. Yeah. I mean, I was concerned, and Shanann Watts had no physical trauma to her neck either. Right. And Chris says he strangled her, but she was probably asphyxiated, maybe not with strangulation. Squirrels on Fire is going live at 11 o'clock this morning. Okay, well, it's 10:01. Thank you for reminding me. I knew I was forgetting something. I was like, what else is it that I do at the beginning? I did my timestamp in my announcement of doing the live, so I don't think I've done it in the live. It is 10:01 East Coast time on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. So it's voting day. And as far as I know, Wayne Wu may be on the ballot in Truckee, in Placer County, to secure his status as, or to confirm and continue to secure his status as the sheriff in Placer County. And in my opinion, that's just foobar. I mean, just completely effed up beyond understanding and recognition. Is that what the foobar is? For people who don't know, that's like military speak, like snafu. And most of us have heard the term snafu, don't know that it's military speak. And foobar is another very Popular one. So thank you, Shelley Harshaw, for your advice here. You have to listen to Squirrel Girl. Yeah, I think that what you're talking about with Squirrel Girl is that she spoke with Nick directly. So yes, I will absolutely watch that. That was not an autopsy. It was a coroner's report. Nothing scientific or measured. Incomplete. AF. I'm going to pin that one too. Good point. And fed up beyond all recognition, or effed up beyond all recognition. Yes, thank you. I'm not military myself. I grew up in a military family, but I'm not personally military. So yeah, I'm not all that familiar with all those. There's a whole bunch of them. There's like 10 of them that are all the same type of thing. No wonder they are trying so hard to discredit Nick. It breaks their narrative, right? It throws their time frame off. And then um, Crime Watch with Kenny is a brand new channel. Kenny often shows up in my chat, and I've seen him in other chats, and he usually has very good information. I believe he is in the UK and that he just started his own channel. I looked at it last night and subscribed, and he has 9 videos. So he is convinced that her car was put in a trailer, like I think like a boxed trailer, um, closed trailer, and then inserted into the water right before it was discovered by AWP. So, nothing would surprise me in this case. Absolutely nothing. So, like why the F is Homeland Security out there for one missing teen? That makes no sense whatsoever. Obviously something is up. Obviously something is going on. I mean, this Nate Hambrick kid that was allegedly there, who is essentially been invisible during most of this whole last couple of months, his father and his grandfather are like the big bank empire kings. Like it reminds me of like big pharma, I mean, this Homeland Security being there is sus. It's absolutely like 100 red flags, in my opinion. I mean, FBI, 45 of them being there is also sus. Um, they just say debunked and move along. I call BS. Yeah, I have a problem with that phrase debunked personally, because Um, I just think it's goofy and it's a weird phrase. It's like new in the last few years, and it's just like, "Oh, I shot that down. I proved that wrong." And it's like things aren't always so black and white. It's not one or the other. There's the shades of gray. So just because something is debunked, I'm not necessarily going to buy that. It's just my opinion. It's how I approach things. Justice, remember what Kevin said about the true drug dealers in the jail? I found the connection. Uh-huh. I believe it. Absolutely. I mean, big money. So there, the big money going on here gets back to the water, and maybe the water rights that the grandfather may or may not have had to the Prosser Creek Reservoir. The big money laundering that needs to happen when you have drug dealers and cartels. The money laundering is a huge element. It's usually where, if there's a bust, it's usually where it happens because there's a money trail and it's in black and white. But my point is that cities usually use projects and developments as money laundering tools and operations. So there's always ongoing projects and developments in most areas, and specifically Truckee. I know that there have been many project and development proposals that have been hitting snafus with water rights and these types of things. Um, and I'm just wondering how much of the water rights the developments, the projects, the funding, the money laundering, how much of that is what is going on here? And Kylie's lost life is collateral damage, right? I mean, it's awful, awful to say that. So we're at about 45 minutes. I'm going to try to speed up. I'm a little slow this morning. I was up late with the lives and then, just trying to get caught up on all these shows and my notes and, like I said, family stuff. So just, not as quick minded, I feel like, as I normally am in the morning. I'm usually really good in the morning, like super sharp. That's why I like to do these early. And then in the afternoon, I feel like I'm not quite as sharp. And then in the evening, it's like a whole different story. So I, kind of feel like I'm an old lady and I just got to deal with that right now. I'm much better in the morning. So, I mean, I say I'm old. I'm 58, older than I ever thought I would be. 69 shades of gray. The person whose address is or was the same as Shannon Moon's at one point was charged for smuggling drugs into the jail in Nevada County, and he's locked up now even. That's fascinating. I want to pin that. Yeah, and Shannon Moon is a very vocal character of being lesbian and just really putting herself out there. And I'm not sure how much law enforcement experience she has. I think she gained a lot of popularity because of her being out, and that is what it is. But that's not law enforcement. That's totally different stuff. Um, Whose purse was that last night in Squirrel's Live? I missed it. She said it was said there was like $5,000 cash in there. I don't know whose purse that was. It kind of seemed to me that it might have been implied that it was Kate's purse. And yeah, it was a stack of probably $100 bills, like a lot of them, a lot of them. And I think they were tied together with a rubber band in a purse. I have no idea if that was like a photo from the internet or if that was supposed to be Kate's purse. I don't know. Um, so you mentioned Mountain Girl as a creator who took a break from YouTube a few weeks ago. I got a notice that she's doing a video this morning. Can't verify other than a notification. Oh my goodness, Lisa Lewis. Thanks for that info. I just looked her up again last night because she did quit doing her shows a month or two ago. On YouTube it says a month ago, but YouTube does that, like they throw the time frames off. It seems to me it was closer to 2 months ago, and that she did this long 2-hour goodbye video. It's in her lives. It's the last one. I saw it just last night that it's still there. Her channel is still there, and the live was about her having her physical safety threatened and her family's physical safety threatened, and that she was just going to stop doing YouTube because of that. And she was like crying, I think, during the whole 2-hour thing. I watched most of it or listened to most of it. Actually, the screen is just like rocks or gravel or something on a lot of her lives. It's just audio. So I listened to it and thought, in my opinion, it sounded like the Catfish crew had gone after her because she was very vocal and very direct and just didn't mince words at all and just said what she thought. It would be great, in my opinion, if she's getting back into it. So thank you for that hot tip. So you are so young, look young, act young, so far so good. Well, I'm just going to have to pin that. I mean, I feel young. I've got an 11-year-old, almost 11-year-old daughter. That's my youngest. I've shared with you guys. I had her at 44. I mean, I had my 15-year-old at 40. I figured that was it, that I was done. And then my husband and I just really wanted one more. Anyway, my oldest child is 20. And I have an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and an almost 11-year-old. And they definitely keep me on my toes and keep me young. And I'm proud of my age. I'm proud of just kind of maturing and hopefully having some wisdom and calming the heck down. I mean, I was pretty wild in my younger years and did a lot of risky behavior that I'm not proud of, but I'm glad I got it out of my system and I'm glad that I survived it all. I think it's important to learn from your mistakes. So, let's see. The Cal Topo being at the search early on. I think I mentioned that yesterday about how, they knew those fire cams. They absolutely knew those fire cams. And, the fire cams are such a debate, a lot like this other firestorm of or shitstorm over the weekend. Um, A very important question I want to ask, and I will pin this in my mind since I'm not typing it in there, but somebody could type it in there if they wanted to. Why was law enforcement oppositional to Ms. Kiely Rodni's father and grandfather? Law enforcement was oppositional to those two men. They didn't seem oppositional to Sammy or oppositional to Lindsay or oppositional to Jagger. Obviously very oppositional to AWP. So if somebody wants to type that in, I'll pin it. But I'm going to pin this one about Mountain Girl because I really appreciate her channel and it would be great, I think, if she came back. Mountain Girl covered the Summer Wells case and had to take a break because things got heated and there was trouble aimed at her. She returned and started covering Kiely. Oh, see, I didn't know that history. Very good to know. Um, Kiely didn't want to live the Truckee way, right? And I get the feeling that she wanted to abandon ship and that, people get really emotional. Like us adults, we know when we've quit jobs, people take it personally, like we've dumped them. They don't even need to be our supervisor, just like a coworker. People have abandonment issues. It's the way we're designed. And some people are much more raw with their abandonment issues. I'm really getting the distinct feeling that Kiely was busting a move out of that town and was just done with the whole Truckee way. And that, that wasn't allowed. I'm really, really getting that feeling. I know a lot of people have said that all along, and I've kind of, taken that into consideration, but I just feel more and more solidified that that's what it was. That's what got her dead in the water, in my opinion, possibly. Doug said they are voices for victims. That should be their new company name. The rest of the guys should get together to create a new company and get on with their business being a voice for victims. I love that, Heavenly Clouds. Did he just say that this morning? I haven't heard that one yet. It's Mountain Girl 212 if you're looking for that channel. Yeah. Okay, you guys are just kicking some butt. I just looked. Wayne Wu is not on the ballot. Well, can he be recalled anyway? I mean, I didn't think if he was on the ballot that he wouldn't get voted more secured. But yeah, they did something like that in May because of the situation with the previous sheriff hightailing it. Again, I want to know why that previous sheriff hightailed it. Was he having friction with the cartels? Was he having friction with the other local sheriffs? And remember, Kate Cuneo's uncle is a deputy sheriff for Sacramento County, which is probably just one county, probably right next to Placer County. I haven't looked at the map of that, but that would be my guess because Placer County starts with Truckee and goes like maybe to Auburn, which is about halfway to Sacramento. So probably Auburn to Sacramento is all Sacramento County. And then Truckee and east of Truckee is Nevada County, but California, Nevada County. And then you got Nevada state. I mean, it is a lot of different jurisdictions, and too many cooks in the kitchen, right? I scratch your back, you scratch mine. I have bipolar disorder or borderline personality disorder, Jade, and either way, yeah, it's very difficult to navigate life normally, but if you work your ass off every single day, then there is hope for people with personality disorders. Recovery is a constant battle. Good point, Jade. And yeah, you answered my question. Did I pin it? Yeah, I did. Okay, so Jade is acknowledging that she is battling with a personality disorder, and that's awesome because my experience, my professional experience with personality disordered individuals is that they don't want to change, and they're not motivated to change. They get their needs met by lying, cheating, and manipulating. And it sets up for a dreadful life. It's just a pain. It's a royal pain for them and everybody around them. And they don't stop. They don't have a motivation to learn how to not manipulate and how to get needs met by kind of more healthy social skills like negotiating and navigating that way. um, but yes, there is hope for anybody, absolutely. I mean, personality disorders are tough because also they can't be treated with medications usually. There are some people who say some like anti-stress medications and antidepressants are extremely helpful. Boost bar is an old one that a lot of folks with borderline personality disorder have had success with. If you've tried Boost bar or if you're aware of it, um, it's not very commonly used anymore simply because Big Farm isn't pushing it because they're pushing their newer stuff. But anyway, yeah, it's like being in recovery, like you said, and just trying to not fall into those old habits and old patterns, and especially staying sober. I don't know if that's an issue for you as well, Jade, but for a lot of people with personality disorders, they self-medicate with drugs and alcohol, and then it's just so challenging for them and everybody around them. Cream delay is very potent indica strain of marijuana and crossed with the other ones. That ain't no joke. And mix it with alcohol. Oh my. Hey, Dilly Owens, I'm gonna pin that. 5 likes and over 100 in chat. Please like. Yeah, and I'm gonna hop off of here in a minute. We're at almost an hour. I was trying to shorten them up, but right now I just feel like there's so much material that I don't want to be like talking fast and rushing through. Um, I do want to hit on another, going back to something that I put into a couple of my podcasts a week or two ago. The Truckee Donner Trust, I'm sorry, Truckee Donner Land Trust. The granddad is, I think, like the chair of this Truckee Donner Land Trust. Kiely's granddad, Ms. Kiely Rodni's granddad, David Robertson. He has everything to do with the Truckee Donner Land Trust, and that ties in with the developments and projects in the community. And Sammy Smith's family ties in with all things money in that community. They are kind of the puppet masters of fundraising, is what I have gathered in my sleuthing. So what else do I have here that I want to not leave out? Remember that Sammy Smith, Scammy, as I sometimes want to refer to her, or just SS because it's like a snake, and she totally has snake eyes in my opinion, or Charles Manson eyes. Not as heavy duty as Jagger's Charles Manson eyes, but nonetheless. Remember that Sammy went to Kiely's Point, as it's been referred to, the point where her car was found off of in the reservoir. She went to Kiely's Point in the dark at night, the night before the laptop was allegedly discovered. Um, and another thing about nighttime out there is I have wondered, and I don't think I've ever addressed this, and this is one of these things that I don't know that I've heard anybody address. Um, you know, the day that they recovered her and her vehicle in such horrible, destructive fashion, they took a very, very, very long time to get her vehicle onto the truck. I mean, she was discovered close to noon-ish, somewhere around there on that Sunday, August 21st. And I don't think her car was loaded onto the flatbed until 8:30 at night, and I don't know that it was driven away at 9:30 or if it arrived at the morgue at 9:30, and then she was removed out of that car, but there was a lot of activity still at that crime scene, potential crime scene. It should have been handled as a crime scene, well into the night. I don't even know how late into the night, and maybe some of you do know, but it begs me to question what was it that they wanted to wait until darkness fell before they did, because it's my experience with law enforcement that they would try to do everything that they could while they had daylight, if they could. I mean, of course, sometimes they have to do things at 2 in the morning and they get out there with the helicopters and the floodlights. We've all seen that happen, right? I mean, when they got to do what they got to do it right now. They can't wait. I mean, this is serious business and they don't want to give the criminals any opportunity to hide anything. So, if they were still out there, where were their helicopters and floodlights once it got dark so that they wouldn't miss anything? Unprofessional. Thank you. I'm just going to pin that because, sometimes I just think simple is the best. We don't need to mince a bunch of words. That's the only word we need. Okay. So let me just go over a couple more things here and then we'll sign off and get on with our day. Um, and maybe us in the true crime community, need to make a petition to demand a writ of mandamus, if I'm saying that word correctly. And I won't go over what that means since we've talked about it lately. The writ of mandamus. Could we, as a true crime community, circulate a petition to demand that that is done? Um, so also, those 5-pound pearls, I think is what they're called, the weights for divers that were discovered right by Kylie's Point, right around the same time that all of these articles belonging to Kylie were getting discovered by some random YouTuber. So you guys have probably heard about those two 5-pound pearls, is what they're called. And I think they're like belted weights that scuba divers use so that they can go down without floating back up when they're trying to stay down. So, it's really all about credibility and, the credibility of the witnesses, the credibility of the parties involved, the credibility of the professionals involved. A lot of these people are lacking credibility, tossed around without safety measures and no evident trauma. Oh my goodness. I can't pin both of those simultaneously, but thank you, Maud. Is she so brilliant? I'm going to read tossed around without safety measures. Corpse was mishandled. And then it's put in the autopsy or the coroner's report, no evident trauma. Yeah. What the fuck? Hey, Kevin Niece, how is it going? Check it was going to make a necklace. Laugh my ass off. Oh, a necklace out of the pearls. And Kevin, you might have heard me talking yesterday about your 45-minute podcast on Mormonism. That was awesome. That was so well done. Thank you for all of your insight with that. And I think that that's really important for people that are, you know, concerned about the situation with Jared, just to look at what is going on with the Mormonism and with the state of Utah. I haven't brought this up yet, and I might as well just drop a big bomb at the end of a podcast, because that can be fun, right? I try not to do that actually, but I have wondered when would be a good time to bring up the state of Utah, the situation with Moab, as you know, we've brought up recently with Gabby Petito and the police officer and the domestic violence history there. But most of you probably remember Crystal Turner and Kaylin Schulte, the lesbian couple that was murdered on August 14th, right outside of Moab in the La Salle Mountains, also on federal park land. And then there was a guy that Crystal worked with at McDonald's that they said did it, but he had already killed himself before they figured out that it was him. There's so much weird stuff with that case, with the Gabby Petito case, and with that double homicide, and with Gatorade bottles for anybody who followed that case, and with Brian Laundrie. And then he hopped on an airplane on August 17th to fly back to Florida. And it was the 16th that these that it was announced publicly that they were found deceased. A woman went up there looking for them and looked for like 5 hours before she found them. And the whole thing was just a disgusting mess. But I'm bringing it up at the end of this podcast because they were lesbians and it happened in Utah. And the Mormon culture of Utah and law enforcement is so anti-gay, and it has always seemed like a hate crime and not handled as a hate crime. I believe that they were SA'd, but I'm not sure, and I hope they weren't. Crystal Schulte, the tall one of the cute couple with long dreadlocks, worked at Moonflower Co-op where the domestic violence situation started. And you know, I don't want to say too much about that case, but I wanted to bring it up in the context of that is a case that has always been very curious to me. I'm not buying that this guy that worked with Crystal at McDonald's and barely knew her went out there and murdered them both just because it's very convenient that he's deceased. And if Brian Laundrie, that's my point, I have always suspected Brian Laundrie of doing that. If he did, Moab Police Department could be sued by those two women's families for negligence. So not only can they be held accountable for Gabby Petito's homicide, like they are being held accountable by Gabby Petito's family, but they would be potentially liable for two other homicides. And you know, there's just too many coincidences in it, and maybe we'll get on that again soon. I don't know. Like I've said, I haven't known when would be a good time to bring it up. I actually brought it up in the chat of one of the first videos of Squirrels on Fire that I was in the chat. And you know, I didn't want to seem too out there, but I don't think it's too out there. For me, it really ties in with what Kevin Neese was saying about his knowledge of Utah. And, you know, justice for Kiely and justice for Kaylin and justice for Crystal. I'm very unsure that those two women had any justice whatsoever. Um, so on that, thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, drop a bomb at the end, right? Squirrel girl doing work. Yes, Kevin, I am going to go over there right as I sign off here. So thank you so much for coming onto my channel and getting into my chat, all of you lovely people. And let's see. Smith found guilty in corruption trial. Yes, interesting. Sheriff Lori Smith. Um, yeah, have a great day. Don't forget to stay hydrated, eat well, protein, fruits, veggies. Put your feet up, relax, get your exercise, and be nice to people. And don't allow anybody to be anything less than respectful towards you, right? Be healthy, mind, body, and soul. So you guys can probably see my little bunny here. Let's give the bunny a spotlight. What is it? Breathe in peace, breathe out love, be brave, stay humble. And Bunny is wearing one of my necklaces that I made. So there. I meant to have Bunny and all that stuff more in the shot, and I didn't. So anyway, peace out, you guys. Thanks a million. And I'll look forward to coming on around probably 2:30, more like 3 today. Let's plan on that. Thanks. Have a great Tuesday.